Hi, everybody. This is Jim Cornette. We're here at LexCon, but you're listening to the Week in Wrestling podcast, and you made the right choice. And by the way, thank you, fuck you, bye.
Oh, wrestling fans! Don't you dare be sour! Clap for your Week in Wrestling podcast and feel the power! It's a new day, yes it is!
Hello and welcome to another Week in Wrestling. I'm Luke Janesco.
D. Harris.
And BackLash Fallout as well as some NXT TakeOver Fallout, I guess. A lot of surprises that I don't think anyone was expecting, except Casey, you had told me there were Vegas odds on this one.
Yeah, we'll get into that soon enough, but I was actually surprised that Vegas takes odds on pro wrestling, which seems unusual to me. I would imagine like an underground service doing something like that, but no, actual casinos were taking odds for WWE BackLash.
You actually probably never. Have you ever been to a Vegas casino? Because they bet.
I've never been out of Ohio except once, dude.
Yeah, I went to Vegas earlier this year for the first time, and they bet on everything. They'll have a back area of a casino that's full of like 50 or so chairs. People sit down with their drinks or their food, and they'll just be watching this screen full of digital numbers and whatever the title, NBA, WWE, UFC, all that stuff is just going right down the side of the screen. So you're just watching that.
That's insane. Like, I never would have guessed pro wrestling and everything like that.
Everything. If you can make money off of it or monetize
it
anyway, yeah.
That's crazy. Especially pro wrestling is technically, there's a story already laid out for it, so it's not really like a sport. But
I just remember several years back, the movie Freddy vs. Jason. Like they had like a faux press conference with Freddy and Jason, and they had like Vegas odds for that.
My God!
And I just remember, okay, that's fun and kind of silly, and does a good job promoting the movie. But for actual WWE, an actual scripted thing, it's a little unusual to me, but we'll get into that because a lot to talk about in regards to what happened at Backlash. But
all right, well, before Backlash, let's tackle some NXT TakeOver results. Kicking off the card, we had Roderick Strong defeating Eric Young. Did this surprise anyone?
No, because Roderick Strong has finally got his footing because they actually told the audience who he was.
I love those stories. Those were so great.
Yes, those are really, really good. That's what got Neville over when he was in NXT initially, and that's what helped get Finn Balor to where he was. So they did like a 3-part series, maybe 4 on Finn Balor, on like 3 separate NXTs. But yeah, Roderick Strong, he has momentum. And he kind of took over where Ty Dillinger left off in his feud with Sanity. And Eric Young finally got his ass kicked, and he had it coming. But I really like how they started the match when Roderick Strong jumped out on the rest of Sanity from behind and then had his match. That was cool.
yeah, and I think it was just a case of Eric Young and Sandy had gotten the upper hand for so long in the feud against Ty Dillinger that it was about time that they suffered a loss. And to have it on a takeover stage, and to have someone like Roderick Strong, who they're clearly building up, they're clearly going to make him champion within the next couple of months. Obviously, this is a good place to start because Eric Young doesn't need a championship. He just needs to lead Sanity, maybe go off and do his own thing, and he can be one of the torchbearers of the NXT brand that we keep mentioning over and over again. That's someone who doesn't need to be called up to the main roster. That's a veteran presence who knows that he's probably in the twilight of his career and just wants to make sure that the industry that he loves is able to thrive, and working in NXT and being a talent, as well as probably helping out some of the younger guys in the developmental center is a benefit to him, to NXT, to WWE as a whole. Storyline wise, like I said, this is something that what D said. He had it coming for a while, and it's about time that he had his dues. Sandy will probably bounce back. This is probably not a one-off feud. They'll probably go on to the next
Heels
takeover.
always bounce back.
So I'm definitely interested to see where it goes from here. But it was definitely good to see Roderick Strong get the 1, 2, 3, and Sandy be put in their place, at least for the time being.
Yeah, going back to those videos, I loved when I first saw those air on NXT. It's something that's great. He doesn't necessarily have a gimmick. We just showed who Roderick Strong was, why we should care about him. Because so many times they throw these guys out there, and they're like, let's hope people start cheering for him. But this time they gave us a reason. They gave us his actual backstory, so we feel like we know him. Are we going to be seeing Roderick Strong on the course to be the next in line for Bobby Roode?
I think there might be someone maybe someone in between, maybe two people in between for Bobby Roode before he even gets there. He just, Roode just had that match. It was a really, really, really good match with Hideo Itami. I'm not exactly sure where they're going with that because I don't know if that was a heel turn starting a feud with Cassius Ohno later on down the line, but they showed Hideo flipping out backstage after the show, flipping stuff over, and so I don't want to believe that that feud is completely done. I'm hoping not. He's already beaten Cassius Ohno, and who else is on the roster that would be a good contender for
That's where I'm kind of at all right now. I'm not sure.
I thought it was someone else who was getting hot on the main roster that I can't think of right now, but I know probably by Brooklyn maybe if he doesn't face Hideo Itami again. It'll probably be Roderick Strong, but I really can't think of who else would face Bobby Roode right now. But I think if Roode does drop the championship, it needs to be at Brooklyn. Yeah,
I think we're gonna have a little bit more feud with Hideo Itami, and then honestly, probably Roderick Strong after that. I would guess I don't think the Itami feud's over yet.
Right. Yeah. I would wait until Survivor Series time because they're gonna have a takeover before Big 4 pay-per-view. I would wait until then before even considering putting him in that main event spot. Build the character up a little more. You've already shown that the character is the person. Build that up. Make sure that the fans are going to turn on that if you don't force it down their throat, but definitely give them, an idea of, this is, a peek inside that person. But I agree. There needs to be someone else. Either continue with Itami, find someone else who can be a stand-in one-off feud for Bobby going into towards the end of the year, and then you can throw Roderick Strong in. And you don't necessarily have to give him the championship right away. You can wait until these Royal Rumble takeover to get that title change happen and lead that into the WrestleMania season. So definitely go with a slow burn on Roderick Strong going into that main event scene, but you're definitely on the right track in regards to getting that done the right way, which is NXT strong suit.
And as you mentioned, the character is the guy with Roderick Strong, and we need to have more of that in WWE.
Yeah.
Like the gimmick is that he is this guy. That's him.
Yep.
Right.
We need
because he knows how to do it already. Because he is Roderick Strong.
And I think a lot of guys would get over and have more of an impact with the fans if they were really like that. As much as I dislike The Miz, and I really really fucking hate The Miz, the guy plays that character well because he's actually an asshole. So he's just playing himself. Austin did the same. Austin was the same way. So was Randy Orton in that regard. So when you let guys just be themselves and give them good material to work with on television, it's going to come out. It's going to come across a lot better on screen and to the fans. And side note, whoever the NXT ring announcer is, his name is Roderick Strong, not Roderick Strong.
Yep.
Please, come on now.
Little things.
Where is Tony Chimmel? Bring back Tony Chimmel.
He still works there.
He's somewhere backstage.
I think he's still. I think he may be one of the guys coaching some of these newer ring announcers because he still works there. He's just not on camera.
I think last time I saw him, he was actually doing main event
Okay.
So obviously he's still. I think he's somewhat of a producer now backstage. He's working in the gorilla position, so maybe that's his job now. But I miss that guy. You can keep Howard Finkel. I like Tony Chimmel. So
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll move on. A title did change hands at NXT TakeOver. Pete Dunne defeated Tyler Bate to become the new UK champion.
I actually called this one because people, aside from Tyler Bate, just looking at that tournament and the few appearances these guys had on NXT up to now, the fans like Pete Dunne just as much as they like Tyler Bate, if not more. Even though Pete Dunne's clearly a heel, it's just he has something. It's something there. Now Tyler Bate's very young. He just turned 20.
right.
So he has time to, like, a lot of time, like, if this loss may have hurt him in any way, which I don't think it did, but he has time to bounce back, and possibly they could have got that championship off of him so they can move on to something better on NXT for Tyler Bate. You never know. But with Pete Dunne, man, I saw this coming. Tyler Bate he's been UK champion since the tournament, which was in like November or December.
Right.
So he's already been like the longest reigning champion without having to do much with it. And to really kick off what they're trying to do with this new UK series, whenever they do it, they needed to get people talking and get things rolling by having a title change.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised that they've only been doing this on NXT and they haven't at least, they teased it for the main roster. Granted, I don't think that Tyler Bate or Pete Dunne are ready for the main roster at all at this point. But they've made so much of a big deal with this UK championship, and the only way you've been able to see it is on NXT and on the WWE Network, which, if you're just a casual fan who just turns on Raw and SmackDown every week, you have no idea of the importance of what this championship means to the UK scene. So it's definitely kind of an issue there, but obviously as the title goes forward and they build up the UK show and they're able to showcase the UK talent a little bit more with this new show, then obviously that will grow better.
Not to cut you off, but side note, on the UK special they had the Friday before TakeOver. Well, I think that's when I saw it. I'm not sure when it originally aired. It may have aired
I think they debuted it on the Friday, but
it was recorded
like
a couple weeks ago. But I didn't know. I just saw it there because I didn't want to have anything related to NXT spoiled for me. But I mean, to that show spoiled on NXT, so I didn't watch the NXT TakeOver first. I watched the UK special, and they had Pete Dunne come out with the Progress Championship.
Did they really?
Yeah, he walked to the ring with that and was announced as the Progress Champion.
You see, that's a good thing, too, because I have heard rumors that there are a bunch of UK promotions, indie promotions, that WWE is considering bringing on the network.
Yeah.
So that Progress would be huge for them.
Yeah.
That is a huge promotion.
This was to
worldwide.
Because that was to have the number one contenders match between Pete Dunne and Mandrews.
Right.
And during that reintroduction, they said on the way, he had a belt in his mouth. I couldn't tell what it was until they zoomed out, and I had never seen that championship before. I'm not exactly familiar with UK wrestling, but everybody's who's a wrestling nerd like us has heard of Progress.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it used to be a giant staff, and recently they switched back to traditional belts. So.
And then when he was coming to the ring, he said, "He is the Progress World Champion," or something. They said, and the crowd went crazy.
Yeah, that's something that's going to get a huge pop, especially in the UK, where wrestling is. I don't want to say it's a religion or anything like that, but it's definitely has more of a dedicated fan base, almost ECW like.
It's got very deep roots.
Yeah, and if you look at the issues that a lot of our independent promotions are having, and this is something I mentioned to you in the car. A lot of independent promotions are trying to get exposure on the internet, and especially with WCPW, another UK promotion, they're having their livelihoods threatened because they're not able to have the ad revenue now due to
from
YouTube
policies. I was just gonna say that that's incredibly bad.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned to you the Alberto Del Patron and Rey Mysterio match has over 1.2 million views, and they've made $44 off of that in ad revenue because they don't consider it, ad revenue friendly or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't even know how that works, and YouTube's probably gonna get. I won't be surprised if someone gives YouTube some kind of class action lawsuit.
Yeah,
or some kind of backlash.
Because it's the entire wrestling industry. It's not just a promotion or anything. It's the entire wrestling industry.
And I was telling you guys I was getting caught up a little bit on SmackDown because I stayed at work a little bit later tonight, so I wouldn't have to go all the way home and come over here, so we could record this thing. And I was catching up on SmackDown on YouTube. WWE has a hell of a lot of ads on their YouTube videos.
Yeah.
What is it? Because
during WrestleMania, anytime you wanted to go to a YouTube video that had ad content on it, and you had WWE subscribed, you got a WrestleMania ad.
Right.
So it's definitely a lot of contradictions, a lot of he said, she said in regards to that. But going back to the point at hand, having progress, having ICW and other UK promotions that are huge worldwide and have definitely big underground followings here in the US, having them be promoted on the WWE network, having their shows be linked with the WWE with this new UK show going on, being able to have come down to the IWC taping, and we'll also give you a WWE taping as well. 2 shows for the price of one. That kind of thing. That's going to be huge. That's going to bring tourism from wrestling fans across the world. You think WrestleMania is big? That's going to be just as much. So it's definitely a good move for WWE to go forward with this. And I think it's a great move for Pete Dunne to be champion because I'm actually surprised that they haven't already tried to bring him into the cruiserweight division, being called the bruiserweight, and them needing more hard-hitting ground-and-pound heels right now. I think it would be a great fit. Again, obviously, young guy, just came into the WWE fold. Obviously, they want him to cut his chops a little bit in NXT first. But you have, 2 great talents in Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, vying for a championship already, young in their careers, and ready to work for the WWE. It's a win-win at this point.
Yeah, I love these two working together. I'm not such a fan of the seclusion that these guys have gotten, especially since NXT does need a lot of different talent, and I think Pete Dunne could be a great talent just as NXT and not specifically in the UK division.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a UK championship. I really would love to see WWE open up almost like an NXT-like territory in the UK. It doesn't necessarily have to be NXT, but just to have some of their guys go over there so that they're not all just stuck in one spot.
Yeah, why not? Why not have a half-hour NXT light based in the UK? You can even bring some international guys in there. I mean, I don't think there's any rule that says that an American or a Canadian can't win the UK championship. Lord knows there are only 2 or 3 Europeans that ever won the European championship. So I don't think there are any rules in regards to that. We'll see. I mean, the championship's still young. I don't think anything has been set in stone in regards to this. I know they've been planning it for several months, and they've since the tournament they've only recently just got it off the ground. This is only the second champion, but from what I've seen with the tournament way back when, and what I saw this weekend, they're in a great spot right now, both in terms of the future of the company and for their promotion overseas.
Yeah, I really hope a lot of these guys get integrated in the NXT roster, just because I would love to see Pete Dunne feud with almost anyone in NXT right now. We'll move on to Asuka defeats Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross to retain her championship, but she's still going strong.
Yeah, well, it was a competitive match, but Asuka kicked their asses.
Yes.
Now, she won the match, of course, but the way she won it, she pinned both of them at the same time. And the problem with this is Ember Moon, who should have been the one to take. I think a lot of this would have been negated if Ember Moon would have, won the championship at the last takeover. Because now that girl's out for 6 months with a shoulder injury.
Yep.
Who the hell's going to beat Asuka now? I don't see it being Ruby Riott, and I don't see it being
Nikki Cross
because they're both heels. And Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott already are feuding with each other, and they haven't had their one-on-one match.
It just seems like they threw it in with Asuka just to kind of.
Yeah, I think what they want to do is have a fatal four-way, so they have both feuds together.
Yeah.
And we lost half of one of the feuds that were a moving part of this thing because they didn't put the title on her when they should have. I didn't want to see Asuka lose either, but Ember was hot.
Yeah.
Like she was getting red hot.
Yep.
And it's like when and that was the time to put the championship on her. And I think that loss hurt her a little bit, but I think they wanted to gain sympathy for her, as she started chasing the championship. But you have so much time between takeovers, and then they had to tell a story in between. So when they finally told that story, and they did that whole, I don't know how a battle royal ends in disqualification. I really don't fucking know. But they had that spot where Asuka tossed her out of the ring. It's not only so much space at ringside of NXT. You can't do shit like that sometimes. And she went sailing, and I it didn't look like she hurt herself from how she fell, but clearly she did. I mean,
yeah.
From what I understand, Ember's not really that. She's a small girl.
Yeah.
She's not that much bigger than Alexa Bliss. So things like that, going into this match and knowing that, it's like I already knew Asuka was going to win. I just didn't know she was going to win the way she did. It was still competitive. Like they got their offense in on her, they got their offense in on each other. But for the most part, to me, she was kicking their asses. So that's making it like, okay, we kind of get New Day syndrome here. Because who's going to beat her? I'm looking at the rest of the roster. Those, aside from Ember, those are the other top two women competitors.
Yeah, there's no one else really.
There's really no one else. I mean, there's girls on the roster right now, like Aaliyah's there. She ain't doing shit. They had this Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
Asuka's beat her in like 20 seconds one week on the actual program NXT on the TV. This wasn't even a takeover show. And then like they had this new hot. This chick is hot. She's like a former army police officer or whatever. I forgot what her name was, but she's there. But she loses all the time. So it's like, well, now what? What do we got with Asuka?
Yeah, it's like, where do you go from here? They don't
Unless
have anyone.
The only way I would accept Asuka dropping the championship at this point, because I don't think they're going to wait for Ember to recover to move on with an Asuka storyline.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The only way I will accept this is if Asuka gets super cocky and says, "I'm done with this. There's no competition here. Take the belt. I'm going to Raw or SmackDown."
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. You could Paige it. Paige was NXT Women's Champion when she showed up the night after WrestleMania, challenged AJ Lee for the Divas Championship at the time and won it and forfeited the NXT title as a result. So do the exact same thing. Have Alexa win at Extreme Rules, be all cocky and say, I can beat anyone. Asuka comes down and squashes her.
But the thing is, I would rather Asuka still be a heel. Clearly, Asuka's better as a heel. Especially like, I think it was either last week or the week before, they like interviewed her in the car. What do you think about Ember Moon? She said, next question. Do you think Ember Moon being out of this match will give you an easier victory? She said, next question. They asked about Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. She said, next question. And then they asked her something else. She just rolled her eyes and scoffed like, and got out of the car. And as soon as she got out of the car, the camera's still following her, and everybody's chanting, Asuka, Asuka, Asuka. She said, yeah. Like,
I love that.
And then, like, you can tell it wasn't genuine because as soon as she got past all those fans, she rolled her eyes like, ugh, like, I'm so done with this.
Yep, I love that.
And she kept walking.
Yeah, it's definitely, I was going to say it, when I read the results and got everything situated, it's like, it is New Day syndrome. You're almost sick of her. And you're not sick of her matches, but she's been women's champion for over a year now.
But the thing is, it's not even that. I'm not sick of Asuka. It's the fact that they're booking her so strongly in a division that's very depleted. And
there's like no one left after the raid almost.
And this is right here. I'm about to use an example to a lesser degree, but it's back when Trish Stratus was champion, I want to say in 2005. And they were firing a lot of the women at the time. And all you really had left there was all the pretty ones and Victoria.
Yep.
And Victoria's hot too. I'm not saying she's not pretty. I'm just saying when I
But
say
she
the
was
pretty
one of the ones that could wrestle. So
yeah, when I say the pretty ones, I mean the ones that are just pretty and they can't wrestle.
Right. The models that they hired and think they can wrestle.
So
and
it's like
last a year and a half. And then
and Trish was the champion so long at that point. Like she even had injuries where she was off TV for a while and came back and was still champion because the division was so depleted.
Because
only,
who cares about that 30-day rule thing? We've already established that.
Because it's like it is only so many times like these two people can wrestle each other. Yeah. So I know we can get a bunch of matches out of Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. I think if they're trying to drag this thing out, shit, I would like to see if they really want to try to drag this out. Let the match between Ruby. Leave Asuka off of the next takeover. Just leave her off of it. Like put her on commentary, do something. Yeah. You can just leave her off. Have Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott's feud against each other lead to that match being the number one contender. Asuka faces whoever that number one contender is, wins, and moves on to the person who lost. And they'll drag that feud out. I would drag that out for a while. And then hopefully 6 months will pass by then if they want to squeeze it out. Maybe that'll be around Mania season. That'll be the time for Asuka to drop the championship. Maybe. But she's the longest reigning champion in all of WWE, like of any championship.
Yeah.
And the longest reigning champion of any title in NXT. So
and that's enough to put her in the Hall of Fame by itself. And she doesn't even have to leave developmental to do it.
Yep.
All right. Well,
unless I'm sorry, but unless she's going to be one of those mainstay talents, which I don't know.
Yeah, that one. See, and that one I'm a little iffy on because I was iffy on Nakamura going up to the main roster. Her, I'm even more iffy with her being the language barrier, her being a Japanese woman. I'm not entirely sure how they would handle her on the main roster.
She speaks language a little better than Shinsuke does. Yeah,
it's just the way they pick women. I don't know if I have that much. I don't know if they have I have faith in the main roster writers to actually to do what they did in NXT with Asuka.
Right, and the other problem is, what choice do you have? I mean, we've established how paper thin the women's division on both shows actually are, and it's only getting thinner in NXT unless they're going to call up some more women in the developmental center.
Or they can bring, or if they don't want to leave. Asuka off for the next takeover, and they do that feud. But they're already doing the feud. But if they make the match for a number one contendership, they don't want to leave Asuka off the title. Off of the show. What they can do, in my opinion, I'm not booking WWE. It's just me brainstorming. So if anybody's listening and has a problem with what I'm saying, go ask them a pie or something. That's my opinion.
Nice safety.
Anyway, they could have, like how Liger came in and had that match with Tyler, have a showcase match. Do that with somebody else. I mean, you keep Asuka strong. She's going to beat them. The match with Mickie James was a showcase match.
To do like an open challenge almost. Asuka. And there's no talent here.
Yeah, so just do that for her to have something to do and to continue to look strong before she moves on to that
next fans would love it if you end up getting Victoria or someone back.
And she's on good terms with WWE.
Just nostalgia, just have like a one-off. It'd be a big name.
And they were looking to have her come in at one point last year as a trainer, so why not? But I was looking at something earlier, and I would actually because WWE apparently is going to sign her anyway. Kairi Hojo.
Oh, okay.
I would like to see that match.
Yeah.
However, WWE, the thing I was looking at earlier was WWE's kind of getting a little bit of backlash because she was told she can't use her elbow drop, which is like the best elbow drop in all of wrestling right now if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Which Macho Man's a shame.
No, yeah, and they're saying it's because Bayley's using it.
No way.
That's their reason. They told her she needs to change her finisher because Bayley's using it.
That's insane.
WWE ruins everything.
But before they change her name, have her come in as Kairi Hojo and have that match with Asuka.
Yeah.
And move on, or
Tommy End.
And I hated that they did that with him. I hated that his name. I hate that the character Aleister Black is cool, but the fact that he's fucking Tommy End and they changed that bothered me.
Right.
All right, we'll move on to Bobby Roode defeats Hideo Itami to retain his NXT champion, and it was not the main event of this.
It was still glorious. Had to get that in there. Wasn't shocked by this. I was kind of expecting Itami to get a shot. But I think if they were going to have him as a top face, which is iffy at this point now, if they were going to have him, it was going to have to be the slow burn, just coming back from start-stop pushes, keeps getting injured. Don't know how much shelf life he actually does have in a WWE setting anymore. It wasn't smart to put the title on him just yet, so the right move was Bobby Roode. And again, Bobby Roode, him being a long-term champion helps NXT in the long run because he doesn't need to be on the main roster. Put him on at some point, sure, but he can spend the next, 6, 12, 18 months in NXT, be fine with it, and still have, a fantastic career out of it. Itami, not so certain anymore because they keep trying to push him to the moon, and there's always something unrelated that puts a stop to that. So it makes sense in the sense of, keep everything simple. You kind of knew how this match was going to play out. It was a great match, don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic match. But you definitely knew what the result was most likely going to be, and at the end of the night, you just said, meh. I saw this movie already. And again, not to take away from the impressive match itself, because it was great, back and forth, all that. But at the end of the day, you knew what was going to happen when you paid your $9.99 to see it. So you're not really too surprised, but at the end of the day, you're not disappointed either. You got your money's worth out of it.
Yep. Well, I think I said a little bit about this earlier. I'm not sure, but Hideo not winning is probably going to lead to another match between these two. But what's confusing me is the interaction he had with it was a couple other guys in the locker room, like Oni Lorcan was in there, but it was primarily with Cassius Ohno. He had that interaction with when he was flipping over tables and he got in his face. And I think they did it out of frustration, but I hope that doesn't lead to, okay, we're going to have Cassius Ohno and Hideo Itami feud. It's like, well, I kind of want to see Hideo. I don't want to see Cassius Ohno. He hasn't really set the world on fire since he's been back, and they gave him a dumb name, and he's wearing
basketball jerseys that don't make any sense. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, and those are kind of cool, but the thing is, I work out. I'm a martial artist, and I've never trained in a wrestling ring in my life. However, the fact that he's probably in great ring shape. Like, you know what I'm saying? You never know. Apparently, like Samoa Joe's a big guy, but he looks like he can kick your ass. But Cassius Ohno to me does not, and I don't have anything against him. Doesn't bother me. But the higher ups in WWE are probably looking at that like, this guy's out of shape.
That's why they fired him originally.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to conform to their look.
And he was actually smaller when he left originally. So it was like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, for me, like, the Cassius Ohno thing, it bothers me that they try to cover it up so much. I'm a fan of different body types. I mean, Stan Hansen was a guy that you would look at and say was out of shape, but he was a guy that could kick ass. So I'm a fan of it. It kind of takes me out when we have him wearing a mock basketball jersey over.
And then he tucks it in before the match starts.
Yeah, it looks horrible. It's either don't let him be on the roster because you have an issue with it, or just let him wear what he wants to wear and not try to cover it up in an odd manner. But going back to the match, I really hope Bobby Roode turns out to be what like Ric Flair was to NWA, where he's just like that champion of champions that holds it for a while. I think that's what NXT needs right now. I love that Shinsuke is up on the main roster. I really wanted to see a little more from Roode and Nakamura. But Hideo, these two are going to put on great matches. I don't think this is the last match that we've seen from them. I think we're going to get at least another match. I'm hoping a couple more.
Yeah.
And then I do think we're probably going to get that heel turn from Hideo after he's unable to beat Bobby Roode, because I don't see him dethroning Bobby Roode. I think he's going to go on to feud with Roderick Strong. I think we are going to get a pretty lengthy NXT run for Bobby Roode.
Clearly, Roode and Strong are head on a collision course to each other. We can't stop it. It's going to happen.
No, you can just sit back and let it happen.
You know, Triple H is probably like salivating, like, oh man, the way I built this guy up and how I got rude running like Flair right now. Oh, this is gonna be good when they touch. Like it's probably like I gotta keep them separate like for the longest time.
He's sitting like the Emperor on the Death Star, like, yes, good.
All right, we'll move on to the actual main event of NXT TakeOver. The Authors of Pain defeat DIY to retain their NXT championships in a ladder match.
I've seen better ladder matches.
Yeah.
DIY kind of carried the match.
Understatement.
I wonder why.
Well, side note, I meant to say this earlier. I love how NXT, all their championships, I didn't notice when they first brought them in because they all had WWE logo on the side, but they all have their own side plates.
Yeah.
With their designs and names on, like Rude says "Glorious" by Rude.
I've never even noticed it.
Yeah, Asuka has her little mask on. It says Asuka at the top, and AOP has their logo that they have on the back of their ring gear.
That's great.
That's
glad
cool.
that they're actually, they're just not throwaway titles. They're actually doing it. I like that they put this on as the main event, so just to kind of give it that extra oomph that it was really important. So I was really a fan that they kind of changed things up and didn't go just by, okay, it's the World Championship, we got to put that at the end. I figured DIY was going to do most of the work in a ladder match. I do think Authors of Pain came with a couple creative things.
Hold on, I think Casey's looking for those championships.
No new NXT championships and no Cruiserweight championship either, just for the record.
This is like the 8th show he's had to look and find that it wasn't there.
I swear to God, they put that Cruiserweight championship on. I'm going to buy it day one. I'm going to bring it on the show and piss on it because that's all WWE's done with the division as a whole. But please continue.
We'll make sure we have video by then. I like the match itself. I think Authors of Pain got a lot of heat by winning, but obviously, as we saw at the closing of this pay-per-view, there was a reason why Authors of Pain did come out on top.
Yeah. We all saw it coming, but it doesn't change the fact of how disappointed it is, because I thought DIY was a great tag team. I didn't want to see them split up just yet, but you can't change the inevitable, and this was something that we predicted way back. I think around WrestleMania season we were expecting this. When Authors of Pain first won, we were expecting this. We knew it was going to happen sooner or later. I'm glad they got at least one championship run out of it. I expected it to be a lot longer and, at least a 2-time championship run. And if this heel turn was going to happen with Ciampa, it was going to, happen, SummerSlam time. I wasn't expecting it to be, I don't want to call this a throwaway takeover, but you expect the takeovers at the big 4 shows. You don't expect one, in fucking May. But again, kind of hurt. You see, our hometown guys, someone we've met personally several times over, get thrown into several video walls and all that. But,
yeah, and they played with us a lot. We thought the show was over. They even had the little go home graphic on there. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's gonna fade to black. That's gonna happen. And as soon as they got ready to say like, that's it for whoa, wait a minute. And
it was really well done. I thought.
They kind of did that during the first night of the UK tournament too. They had the logo on there. Then Pete Dunne attacked.
He just ran. He punched the pale guy in the face.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly to the effect, and it ended shortly after that. Anyway, I think they showed the full attack the next day, but this was extended. You got an extra about 3-4 minutes of brutality after the copyright thing came on, and that's something that you're not expecting, which is good for NXT because you're showing that that brand is somewhat separate from WWE, and they're able to show off what the brand can do. So it's leaving you on the edge, even when you think the show's over. Not only is the main event not what you expected, you got an extra little something in there as well.
I'm really looking forward to Gargano versus Ciampa. I don't know necessarily if this was the best time to do it because of how thin the tag team division is right now. Like after them, after DIY splits up, I don't know who the Authors of Pain are going to feud with.
Heavy Machinery. I like
Which
those
is a
guys.
stupid fucking name.
Fuck it, I love those guys. I don't give a damn. Those guys are awesome.
I think that would
especially Dosevich.
that'll be an interesting matchup strength wise, but I'm not expecting any. Like, I don't know who would carry that match out of the two teams.
It's just gonna be a lot of
It'll be
clubbing.
Paul Ellering that carries that
A
match.
lot of clubbing and guys, hitting each other very, very hard with like forearm shots. I'm not mad at that. It's gonna be a lot of those two in Dosevich and was it Tucker Knight? Yeah, those two guys are pretty athletic to be as big as they are.
See, and that's kind of one of my issues is they're going to be feuding for the tag team championships, and if we went into this without you naming them, I had no idea their names, and then you could remember the second guy's name. I think that's kind of an issue. If
I always
they're
got Tucker Knight and the guy who was Insanity before he got hurt, that Killian Dane replaced. I always got those two mixed up a lot.
Yeah, and
They look similar to me, except one has dreads now, and he's also injured.
And for me, I think this is kind of one of those things where NXT, they need to really figure out what they're doing. Do they want it to be a third brand? Do they want to build as a third brand? Or do they want to do a developmental? Because they're trying to do both, and it's not going to work because, like Casey said, this was almost a throwaway NXT takeover. I feel like they struggled to put a match card together.
But it was still very good.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
In terms of match quality. But when it comes to DIY as a tag team, if this means that they'll be on NXT a lot longer, now if they're singles competitors, I'm all for it. Because I think considering they weren't going to win the titles back. They've had 4 matches with AOP. The one when they lost the championships, their rematch, the one with the Revival was in it, and this one. They clearly weren't going to put the belts back on DIY, so that normally that symbolizes, okay, time to move them up. Because we're not doing anything else with them, so there's nothing else for them to do as a tag team. So in that case, since we're going to move them both into single, I am so hoping that both of them will be mainstays in the main event scene in NXT. So I'm hoping that means they'll have another 6 to 8 months in NXT.
Right, I was exactly going to say the same thing. They need at least another 6 months before they even are considered to be called up. And don't get me wrong, I would love to have both of them called up ASAP, but I do think they need more time. And I do think that a feud with each other for 3 or 4 months and have a couple takeover matches and be able to really tear the house down, because we've seen how they work together. You know they're going to be compatible as opponents.
Yeah, and TM61 is still, that tag team's still out of commission because one of them were hurt. And I think those guys were actually being groomed for a nice push before all.
That's who I thought was going to dethrone
Yeah.
AOP eventually.
Yeah, they got hurt pretty well. It was not Shane Thorne. It was Nick Miller. Was it Nick Miller? No, it was Shane Thorne. Shane Thorne, I think he had a torn ACL.
He's the one that has an injury?
Yeah. So that put a cramp in everything right there. So I believe when they do come back, if it's not Heavy Machinery, which I'm not expecting, it'll probably be those two guys who take the championships off of them. But in terms of Gargano and Ciampa, when they finally do call these guys up, it needs to be one at a time, because I want at least one of them to have a NXT championship reign. It's only fitting. So if this breakup is going to go somewhere, I mean, it clearly is, because it's in NXT and not on the main roster.
Yeah.
where people actually pay attention, because it's a smaller audience. I think NXT gets like 1.5 million views a week or something like that, as compared
smaller
to
audience, but
as compared to Raw, but who gives a
widespread,
shit?
more digestible, being at just an hour.
Yeah, even if the show was 2 hours, they're like, takeovers are only 2 hours, so they're more digestible shows with good match quality, and then you can go home after that. You don't have to sit through a half-hour interview segment, and then you don't have to sit through a match that has a commercial break in the middle, and then you go recap everything you just saw, and then you have another match, and then you have your women's match with a commercial break in the middle. We recap everything we just saw for the first 2 hours, and then you have another match with a commercial break in the middle. Then you recap everything else. Then you have your main event, which is an overrun into the next program you're supposed to see on USA.
With 2 commercial breaks in the middle of that
Exactly.
match. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know you did the rundown for Raw. Yeah, I'm with D. You know, NXT is the place to be right now, and I think Gargano and Ciampa are exactly where they need to be right now. You don't need to call them up. Keep everything separate in terms of getting everything situated. And I'm in somewhat disagreement with you, Luke. I think you can have NXT be a third brand, but also be the developmental, because you know that any up-and-comers coming to the WWE are going to have to go through NXT first. You're going to have that test period, at least to see, you know, if they, you know, even get the response that they're looking for, and able to go from there. I mean, take a look at, you know, the promos that Dolph Ziggler did against Shinsuke, saying that he hasn't done anything in WWE, and the fans are chanting NXT, NXT, because they know what he's able to do in a WWE setting. So I think it's possible. I understand the concern, but it's definitely possible.
And with the Shinsuke thing, with Dolph saying he hasn't done anything, and they're not acknowledging NXT like at all, it's like, well, how will we know him then? If that's the case, stop acting like things are not as they are, as Shawn Michaels once told Vince McMahon. Like, dude, they know what's going on.
And see, my issue with is where I don't feel like they treat it as a third brand or as developmental, is when you can't raid a third brand and not give anything back to it. So how many times are we saying NXT is on a great path, Superstar shakeup. Oh, we took everybody. We just everything. When the draft happened, it just took the rug out right from NXT. And with DIY, I think they're gonna come out both main eventers. And I think if we're gonna treat NXT as a third brand, these two are 2 guys that can stay in NXT and be those guys in NXT as main eventers. Because if I see either of these guys getting called up, they're gonna be condemned to the cruiserweight division.
And another thing about that, when Gargano and Ciampa first got to NXT, they weren't even signed. They were just there having matches for at least 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
they were just there. They weren't signed. They were still working their indie dates. They were just coming in, and then they got signed. I don't think they had a goal to actually be a part of WWE, because, you know, at the time it was still that stigma of, WWE isn't really looking for guys like us. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then they finally got signed, and to someone who wasn't privy to stuff like that, you would think, okay, they had already been there. They were already signed if they were working. No, they were just working on NXT.
Yeah. All right,
that's a good pickup for WWE.
We'll move on to some WWE BackLash results. Shinsuke Nakamura defeats Dolph Ziggler in his debut match on the main roster.
I got something to say about this.
Here we go.
A wrestler's
Black man time.
Yeah. A wrestler's debut match is supposed to be a fucking showcase. Shinsuke Nakamura has had way better matches than this. And it's not his own fault. It's because how WWE want to fucking tell this story. Dolph Ziggler has had better matches than this as a heel as well. But he got way too much fucking offense in on someone who's supposed to be as hyped as they made Shinsuke Nakamura. He should have been hyped the way he was, but they should have presented him a lot better than what they did. It shouldn't have been Nakamura starts off strong, then Dolph Ziggler hits some kind of blindside attack and beats his ass for 15 minutes until Shinsuke gets 2 more hits in and actually beats him.
Yeah. I felt
the Bobby Roode matches with Shinsuke Nakamura didn't even go that way. It was like, come on, man, this is fucking Dolph Ziggler hasn't done anything. He turned heel because he was losing and still fucking lost his first match as a heel to Apollo Crews. I can't believe they did that to Nakamura. Like, I'm watching his match, and I'm watching it optimistically. Like, okay, it's really going to pick up in a minute. We're going to see the Shinsuke we got in NXT. It never happened. They're like, okay, you can do this, but don't look too good. We want Dolph to to look like a strong heel in there. It's like Dolph doesn't look like a strong heel to himself.
Yeah, he's been booked horribly as to if he wants to look strong in any
like,
minute.
didn't he just fucking lose to Kalisto before Kalisto moved to Raw?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break.
That was the feud. Yeah, it was definitely a case of I don't know if it's a case of WWE is afraid of the strong style to bring to the main roster. Then why'd you sign the dude?
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to keep him in NXT. You're not going to pay him that much money to keep him in Florida. You know, I was surprised. I mean, we all knew Shinsuke was going to win. I was actually surprised the way the match ended. I thought that Dolph would, get some kind of disqualification, and then Shinsuke hits them with the finishing move, and everyone goes home happy.
And it was also way too many teases of like really, 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 really close 3 counts.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it made it seem like, Dolph can beat this guy, and then they try to play up the fact that Dolph was, he's a former world champion, this, that, and third. Well, that if he's a former world champion and if he's where he is now, then that's a good example of how far the mighty have fallen.
And
Because
the world championship they're referring to didn't mean much when he held it anyway, so that's not really much of a thing.
That was the start of it not meaning much. That was the very beginning of it, and then when the Del Rio Big Show feud happened. Oh, this is after the Del Rio Big Show feud.
Let's not bring that.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's all bad, when the World Heavyweight Championships opening WrestleMania and ending in 18 seconds, there's a problem. But in regards to Shinsuke, we mention this all the time, do the people who write the main roster shows know how to handle these NXT guys? In Shinsuke's case, I'm worried that they don't, because not only was this match booked terribly, but the tag match on SmackDown was booked terribly for Shinsuke, even though he was the one that picked up the pin. And I would not, if I was booking WWE, I would not put Shinsuke in the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Unless he's winning, because if he's not winning it, it's not going to do anything for him.
Yeah,
exactly.
AJ can take that loss. He can have that loss.
Right.
Ziggler, nobody gives a shit. Kevin Owens is the U.S. champion. Who else is in that match?
Baron
Sami
Corbin?
Zayn and Barry Corbin.
No, and those two are feuding with each other, so that's going to continue. If Shinsuke is not winning this match, it's not going to do anything for him. And if I had him win this match, he needs to cash in that same night and win the belt.
They're not going to do that 2 years in a row, though. The thing I have an issue with is that you don't want to throw him in a group main event scene like this. Let him build his character on his own. We like to say that, we're diehard wrestling fans watching NXT every week. Not every wrestling fan is like us. They barely know NXT is there. They don't pay $9.99 for the network.
A lot of them, I've heard some of these whack ass fans refer to it as Next, but they claim to be wrestling fans. It's NXT. It's an orphan acronym. It's just NXT.
XFL all over again. Yeah, I would find someone else for Shinsuke the feud with. Either continue with Ziggler, take Ziggler out of the Money in the Bank match and continue that feud as a singles feud, or find someone else that isn't doing anything on SmackDown and continue that feud.
We don't need 6 participants in Money in the Bank anyway. It's
overkill.
Yeah, I would not put Shinsuke in a group main event scene yet. Build that up a little bit. But at this point, if Jinder Mahal wasn't, WWE champion right now, spoilers, have him feud with Shinsuke, because that would be actually pretty impressive to see the way Jinder was built over the last couple of weeks with the main event push. That would have been interesting. I would have paid money just to see that match, because that would have been 2 good styles going at each other. I'm just worried that A, Shinsuke is going to be overwhelmed in the WWE scene with 5 other guys in the match, and B, if Shinsuke is going to be your next top star, the guy you're going to really put forward as a top guy, at least on SmackDown, why would you put him in a match so soon after debuting that could potentially injure him severely? That's my biggest concern. If you have this much stock in Shinsuke Nakamura, why not have a slow build of his character on the main roster? Why are you just throwing him into the main event scene for a number 1 contendership?
See, SmackDown, just when you were turning the corner, you pulled a Raw.
See, I think it concerns me most having Shinsuke in a match with so many guys, but with AJ Styles specifically, on how white hot he is being a babyface, that everyone's going to get kind of mowed over in terms of the reactions that people are going to get. No matter how great people think Shinsuke is, when you're going up against AJ Styles, people are just going to chant AJ. I would have been more of a fan of Nakamura versus The Miz. I think that probably would have done better for him.
We thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, and then they kind of just pulled the rug out there.
They were smart there to move Ziggler to Raw.
So, like, Dolph Ziggler, on paper, they would have, work rate wise, they put together a phenomenal match. I don't think it wasn't a bad match, but it was just kind of really uneven. I didn't like
too much. Same problem to me. Even though Shinsuke won and Naomi didn't, it reminds me of when they brought Charlotte over in the shakeup, and she got so much offense.
Yes,
on
it was
Naomi, and Naomi was just basically getting her ass kicked, and she's your champion. It's the same. To me, it's the same thing. I mean, but she never really made a comeback, and she actually wound up getting pinned. But I think Nakamura hit like 3 moves in succession after getting his ass kicked for about 10 minutes, and that was it.
Yeah,
and that should not happen.
Especially when they like to treat it as if people weren't watching NXT and don't know his moveset.
Right.
They're like, this is a guy that's had so much
We need
hype.
to know what he's going to do.
Yep.
Yeah, even Super Cena matches, when he gets beaten down through the entirety of the match and he hits the 5 moves of doom, that's at least still believable, and at least Cena gets offense in the middle of the match. This was just a case of Ziggler pummeling him, and all of a sudden,
him getting
Shinsuke
an opening
found
real quick
kryptonite and took Ziggler out. It makes a very little sense. I just God damn it.
They booked that one lazily to me.
All right, we'll move on to the Usos defeat Breezango to retain their SmackDown Tag Team Championship.
Why was this match not on the pre-show? That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, Casey, stop! That match was entertaining. I liked it. And I like with it. Tyler Breeze is finally getting a fucking shot at something. I'm not even talking.
Who
about
knew that
title
was going to
wise.
happen after he left NXT?
I'm not even talking about like championship wise. He's getting a shot at doing something. Like period.
I remember they were showing Hideo Itami some of like his video package, and I saw Tyler Breeze, and I was like, the good old days of when Tyler Breeze was actually.
Look, I like the gimmick. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I like Tyler Breeze as like the fashion model. I like Fandango as the ballroom dancer. I do kind of like the Fashion Police, even though I think the Fashion Files skits are overdone and pointless. I'm glad that they're getting airtime. Don't get me wrong. And if they're going to make them, the top babyface tag team right now, since American Alpha is doing fuck knows what.
I think. I'll go ahead with what I think is going to happen when you're finished.
All right, I'm glad they're getting the exposure, but at the same time, we knew they weren't going to win the tag team championships. Even on SmackDown, when they suddenly threw in that tag team championship match, which, by the way, WWE having the referee go over in conference with Shane McMahon at ringside, that was actually a nice touch. I like that. We knew that the Usos were going to still walk out with the blue belt, so I'm not saying that Breezango can't win the tag team championships at some point, but even if they do, it's going to be a very short reign. I just don't have enough stock in them as a long-term tag team for them to even justify a short reign with the tag titles.
Well, the Usos are doing okay as heel champions, but they're doing their mic work has been pretty good to me. Aside from
12 days.
But when it comes down to it, they haven't exactly set the world on fire as tag champs because American Alpha has been away, and secondly, it's because I think there are more tag teams on SmackDown, but we only see so many lately.
Yeah,
we see the Colognes, we see if they show up, American Alpha, Usos. Someone else, Breezango, and you have the New Day showing up whenever the hell they feel like it. So.
But the thing is, I believe if Breezango defeats the Usos and whatever they have their next match and becomes the champions, I believe American Alpha will return and they will be heels this time. Or they'll lose this match. Breezango will lose his match against the Usos, and they'll move on. By that time, Kofi should be healed up from the ankle,
yep.
and then the New Day will be the ones to take the titles off the Usos, and then American Alpha will come in as heels, because they weren't bad heels at all in NXT.
They were great
They
heels.
just started getting so over that they had to turn them face. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's what American Alpha needs. They need that heel, that start as heels in order to become successful faces.
They were white meat baby faces.
Yeah,
like, I'm happy to be here. I'm smiling and I'm athletic and I'm wearing USA colors and all this shit.
Fans had nothing to really enjoy about them, so there was like, why would I cheer for these guys? They're
and
annoying.
The thing is, when they did debut, I think they had 1 or 2 matches, like the week they debuted, and then after that. But then it's like they started cooling off a lot because they weren't doing much at all on TV. And then they had the tag team tournament, which those two should have won. I know I like what happened with Beauty and the Man Beast or whatever, and they wanted to tell that story. But that could have came sometime before or after. And the fact that American Alpha did not win that tournament, and especially after beating the Usos in 30 seconds the week prior, that hurt them because they probably would have had a lot of momentum if they were, going to be your face good guy tag team of that division.
All right, we'll move on to Sami Zayn defeats Baron Corbin in just a grudge match. It was kind of surprising to see, especially when they were kind of pushing Baron Corbin so much, to see Sami Zayn actually get a pin. But I think this was almost the epitome of, this pay-per-view was just the epitome of the land of opportunity, where we had Breezango, Jinder Mahal, all these guys kind of, whether you're not getting your due on a certain show or something like that, they actually were being used on this pay-per-view.
Well, I'm not mad that Sami Zayn beat Baron Corbin, because Baron Corbin, he need to get his comeuppance. At this point, he's beaten, especially after what happened on SmackDown when he beat him up again. By the way, Sami Zayn beat him on SmackDown with the roll-up.
In like 5 seconds.
Yeah. But what's been going on with Baron Corbin and him, like, consistently jumping Sami Zayn from behind, beating him up for no fucking reason, just for saying his name, because he's upset with you. Well, he should be upset with you because you won't leave him alone. You keep bullying him. So I think that what needed to happen was the bully had to get his comeuppance right here, even though it didn't last long, because he got his retribution and beat him up again and quote unquote injured him and had him stretchered out on SmackDown. But I think they're trying to keep Corbin looking strong. They actually made Sami Zayn look pretty strong, actually, scoring a haluva kick, knocking him out, and getting the 1-2-3 instead of just getting a victory roll or a schoolboy or something like that. He actually hit his finisher and won the match, which doesn't really happen for Sami Zayn when he's in a feud against a bigger person.
Yeah, and this is the kind of feud that Sami Zayn, if he was going to move to SmackDown, would probably need, because you're continuing that underdog story. You have someone who's not necessarily Braun Strowman by any means, but he's still bigger. He's still out to prove that he's the strongest on the brand.
It's the guy that eliminated Strowman from the Rumble.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely out with something to prove. He's probably someone who's going to be WWE champion for the next 2 years, at least briefly. Definitely going to, both sides are going to get some benefit out of this. And I think Baron Corbin showed that he's not invincible. And Sami Zayn did have an upper hand both on SmackDown and at Backlash. And Baron Corbin, injuring, quote-unquote, Sami after the show, which I found hilarious that, a family of 4 with little kids was kind of laughing at Sami, being knocked out, slung over the apron there. It's going to benefit everyone in regards to, you're building a decent story here, and it's a story that's not necessarily at the front page of, the SmackDown Live review. But if it's going to be a part of the Money in the Bank ladder match, it's something that, hey, you should at least pay enough attention to this to understand what's going on here. It's not a throwaway storyline that's going to open up a pay-per-view or a pre-show.
Yep.
So it's something that it's going to benefit everyone, and it wouldn't shock me if Sami Zayn did cost Baron Corbin at the very least the Money in the Bank ladder match. victory, and they move on through this through at least until SummerSlam when they have a big blow-off match. And see where it goes from there. But it was a good match. Not the best I've ever seen, but definitely forwarded the storyline to just well enough to where it needs to be right now. And like D said, actually seeing Sami Zayn hit his finisher move and get a pinfall 1, 2, 3 instead of just a quick roll up or whatever.
Steal victory.
Definitely helped Sami, who that was the only way he was getting his wins for a while there. So both sides benefited from this match.
Yeah, I think both these guys are going to come out of this feud looking like strong U.S. Championship contenders. And I think they're really starting to build the undercard very well. We'll move on to the Welcoming Committee, which a name I guess they're sticking with, defeats Naomi, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte.
Surprised somewhat. I was expecting the faces to come out with this one. Like, I was expecting Charlotte to be the one to pick up the pin and then be the one demanding for the title shot, a one-on-one shot with Naomi. But that obviously wasn't the way they were going with this. Good, not great. Considering how they decided to just throw all the women out there at once. You know, it's the classic, diva syndrome. Here come the women. Stand up and cheer, folks.
It's not that bad.
It's not nearly that bad. I mean, they actually got a decent amount of time on the show. Don't get me wrong.
They were clearly trying to keep.
You felt like you could have squeezed 2 matches out of this whole setup instead of just having a 6-woman tag. But at the end of the day, surprised that the Welcoming Committee won. Definitely. I'm actually not surprised that the Tally was the one to pick up the victory, but definitely interested to see where it goes from here because you have that fatal 5-way elimination match for the number 1 contendership next week on SmackDown. So that's going to actually be interesting to watch. It wouldn't shock me if that was what closed out the show. So definitely interested to see where it goes from here, but definitely wasn't too interested in it at all, to be honest with you. I mean, it was a decent match, certainly better than what we've gotten in the last 5 years of women's matches. Like I said, SmackDown's built a little bit better in the women's division than Raw is right now, despite how paper thin it is. But really can't knock the match, but I really can't say I cared enough to give much of a damn either way. But it at least held your attention, but it wasn't anything that
it was to give
you want to sit down and watch.
It was more so to really give the women something to do right now because they didn't really have a lot of time. Well, they had time, but they didn't have a lot of time to come up with a extensive storyline for really any of them. So they put them all together here, and they really want to keep Naomi looking strong because she's the champ, and they want to keep Charlotte looking strong just because she's fucking Charlotte. Shut up. I'm starting to really sour on Charlotte, to be honest with you. And then you want to keep the heels looking like heels at the same time, and kind of what happened on SmackDown, it kind of negated it because they did the 50-50 booking thing, even though it wasn't the exact same match. You had 2 people who were in the match actually at ringside this time. But so it was basically a tag match, but all the same people were out there because this is before they decided they're going to announce the tag match and do whatever they were going to do for Money in the Bank. But, Becky took the fall as she tapped out to the sharpshooter. But I'm thinking okay, maybe it's going to lead to Becky winning that fatal 5-way. And then it'll be face versus face initially with Naomi and Becky, but Becky turns heel. Yeah. And if Naomi does lose this championship, it does not, and I mean does not need to be to Charlotte. We had enough of Charlotte for the last, year as champion. Now it's just on Raw, and this is before the shakeup, so she was on fucking SmackDown too doing this shit. So, let it be Becky. Let Becky turn heel. Becky's even said in recent interviews she performs better as a heel. She can do more. So if that's the case, let those 2 go at it. I guess let Naomi be her kryptonite initially, and then I guess if they do a follow-up match or 2, that's when you put the title back on Becky and let her have a freaking rampage.
Yep. I'm really hoping, ever since Naomi became champion, it feels like it's been convoluted with this whole Welcoming Committee group feud. I really hope she breaks away from this, and it's just like, Naomi versus whoever. It's
There was a rumor talking about they wanted to put the championship on Carmella, so we got to watch out for that too next week.
That would not be good.
They'll put the belt on James Ellsworth before they stick it on Carmella at this point.
Carmella,
Harvey Whippleman Part 2.
There we go.
She seems like she regressed just a little bit because she wasn't terrible in NXT. She actually had good matches with Bayley and a few other people in NXT. But it seems like on the main roster, like she did. If you were watching SmackDown, they went to commercial, and I think for that first hour when they go to commercial that first time, you still see what's going on in the ring.
Yeah,
because they put it into another part of the screen. Now, if you were paying attention to the commercial and not the wrestling screen, you will see that Carmella couldn't even sell a punch well. She didn't even get hit by it. She was about for all those of you listening, we're at a desk right now, and Casey is sitting in between me and Luke. If I were to throw a punch at Luke and Casey moved out of the way, of course, because I wouldn't want to hit Casey. If I were to throw a punch,
but I'd accept it. But
but if I wanted to hit Luke with a punch from where I'm sitting right now, I can't. So I forgot who it was. It might have been Charlotte. No, it was Becky. Becky threw a punch at Carmella at the same distance on SmackDown. Clearly didn't connect or even look like it could have connected, but
she sold it.
She fucking sold it.
It just it reminds me of one time, I forget what kind of match it was. I forget who it was. I know it involved Kane, but someone had tried to grab the top of the announcer's desk, accidentally just grabbed the graphic off of it and threw it at Kane, and Kane sold it like he just got hit by the
when you're in the mode.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that, but I didn't even know that happened, but I just visualized it like, oh shit, that was funny. Because that graphic's like on like a magnet or some shit. Right. It's on the top of the desk. It's clearly like rubber or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
And he sold it as if he just got hit by the steel steps or something. It was great.
All right, we'll move on to Kevin Owens defeats AJ Styles to retain his United States Championship.
They had a pretty solid match. I didn't expect AJ to walk out with the championship, but I didn't expect him to lose either, given what's been going on with him lately.
Oh, you got to remember, Kevin Owens is the new face of America. Of course,
yeah, and he just won the championship back too, so I don't think they're going to hot potato it.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty long reign.
I think the only reason Jericho won the championship and lost it right back to Kevin Owens is because they wanted to swerve everyone because that was around the time everybody started talking about, okay, Jericho's about to leave now, just when's it happening? And the rumor was that was going to be his last night there anyway.
Right.
But
yeah, and it definitely, the United States Championship, is one of those championships that you don't want a hot potato around. Mm-hmm. That actually build up credibility over the last
It's the most vacated championship in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, and that's saying something considering the World Championship for a while there. Definitely, not surprised. AJ Styles doesn't need the United States Championship. You just came off a lengthy WWE title run. Doesn't need a championship to validate him as a face. The Kevin Owens AJ feud is something you can build towards through Money in the Bank, because I don't think either of them are going to win the briefcase. And you can definitely move forward with the feud from there, go into SummerSlam, and then decide whether AJ needs the championship or not. Good match. I felt the right person did win, and I think that Kevin Owens being a lengthy, like I said, at least until SummerSlam, having that U.S. title, especially considering how, he had a decent run with the Universal title that didn't really go anywhere because of how that was booked with Jericho. Having him be the quote-unquote new face of America and have him actually fight his own battles and win matches for that championship, that's going to build him back up as a performer. It's going to build the United States Championship back up, and it's going to help whoever he is facing, because when they do beat Kevin Owens for the championship, it's going to mean much more after that as well. So I think right now, good spot with the U.S. Championship. Keep it on KO. Keep it on him through Money in the Bank. Have him be in the ladder match, and then go on from there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think maybe potentially we could be seeing another Sami Zayn Kevin Owens feud for the U.S. Championship, where actually Sami Zayn does come out on top.
That would not be terrible.
Yep.
Not necessarily what I would put in my wish list for things to happen going into SummerSlam, but that would not be a terrible idea.
Yeah, but I think we're still have Kevin Owens have a pretty lengthy reign for a little bit. I mean, I could see him actually going months with this championship, just defending it. And I would definitely be looking forward to actually getting an actual real reign with not having someone like Chris Jericho kind of take the spotlight from him. It's just Kevin Owens. We'll move on to Luke Harper defeats Eric Rowan for I don't know how many times they faced each other.
It's the new Cena versus Orton, don't you know?
Man, that match didn't do shit. It was the same match we got on SmackDown with a different winner. I'm not even going to comment on this.
It was a buffer between what you could consider the two main events.
Yeah.
That's why people ordered the pay-per-view or paid the $9.99 for the network. You know, they wanted to see a KO versus AJ for a title, and they wanted to see Randy Orton and Jinder for a title. This was the only, this was definitely the buffer match so that everyone could go use the restroom, get their snacks, get their refills.
And Luke Harper deserves much better. Eric Rowan's the only thing he's really good for is being in a tag team or in the Wyatt family. I'm not saying that's
and for cryptic tweets, but why does he have a Twitter to begin with?
I don't know, man. I always try to like Eric Rowan because everybody goes, he's the weakest out of the three when they first came in as the Wyatt family. Because Luke Harper had that, he already stood out from the Indies as Brody Lee. But when you saw him on the main roster performing as Luke Harper, you knew it's like, okay, he's got a little something there. Bray Wyatt can work, but this guy could do something on his own too. And then we didn't know he could talk at the time either. He's not a bad talker. They actually tried to go in a certain direction with him when he was Intercontinental Champion for that little bit. But Eric Rowan, I kept giving the guy a chance. He's either hurt or he doesn't really impress me in the ring, and he doesn't even seem like he has a real finisher either. He's switched between that spinning heel kick, fucking. What do you call it? A full Nelson slam. He's had that weird swinging front slam he's doing. I don't know. Like they can't even decide on the mask for this guy. So
yeah,
as long as it involves sheep.
I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing I like about Eric Rowan,
he's bad.
Very punny, D.
Yeah, the only thing I like about Eric Rowan right now is his theme music. I actually like the little
I like that
wind
too.
chime sounding theme music. And Dee brought up a great point. If the guy doesn't have a finishing move, is he really a WWE superstar at that point? Like, what happens when you press X in WWE 2K16? Like, what happens? What is his move in that game?
I really think WWE's missing the boat on Luke Harper, and he could be such a strong mid-card guy. I would love to see a feud with Kevin Owens or even Baron Corbin with two big, strong dudes like that. He's so capable of putting on strong matches, and it really sucks that he was so close on the cusp of main eventing when Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt were feuding, and now he's kind of just stuck in a buffer match at a pay-per-view. We'll move on to the main event. Jinder Mahal defeats Randy Orton to become the new WWE champion.
Yes, I have several questions.
Why am I clapping?
Well, not only that. First of all, I'm not saying that Jinder Mahal doesn't deserve this. I'm not saying that Jinder Mahal has not busted his ass for this. I'm not saying that I don't think Jinder Mahal can be a credible WWE champion. I think he can. I just have several questions in regards to WWE's decision to go ahead and do this when you've put every roadblock in this guy's way over the past several years. I mean, let's think about it for a second. Aside from that number one contendership match win, what the hell has Jinder Mahal done? He's led a rebellion against Kane and The Undertaker at the 1000th episode of Raw that went badly for him. He's been a bassist in a air guitar band with 3MB. Did a tag team with Rusev that went absolutely nowhere for either of those guys. And he came in second in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. If you were going to go ahead and put the title on him, why did you not have him win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal?
Speaking of that, what the fuck is Mojo been the last few weeks?
I was going to bring up the exact same point. Okay, Mojo Rawley has not done a damn thing.
Well, you better be thankful he didn't win that Battle Royal then, because,
the only reason that Mojo Rawley won that is so they could have that SportsCenter highlight the next day with Rob Gronkowski. you can't take someone from the lower mid card that has an abysmal win roster record and just throw him in the main event scene and give him the championship. Again, I think Jinder Mahal can have a lengthy reign, but no one is going to buy him as a credible champion. And you're going to put a plug on this move within a couple weeks' time. It would not shock me if at Money in the Bank, Randy Orton wins the title again. It would not shock me if this was just a shock value thing, or they realize that after the fact that, oh shit, this was a terrible idea. Because the fans aren't going to buy it. You can't have someone lose practically every time he shows up, jobbing out to Enzo and fucking Cass every goddamn week on Raw, and then have him just automatically have, a championship. Unless he has some kind of blackmail on Vince McMahon, I have no idea what they're thinking with this.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I'm just happy that, okay, look, the guy has a terrible win-loss record. Yes. I mean, I know they tried to build him up very, 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 very quickly in a very, very quickly in a very short time. Right. I mean, they even gave him a win over, and I hated that because how I feel about AJ Styles. They had him beat AJ Styles on the SmackDown prior to the pay-per-view. But in the grand scheme of things, and I've heard a lot of people just bitching about Jinder Mahal winning the championship, just bitching and moaning about it. It's like, well, yes, I understand not everything is something different, but I understand not everything that's different is better. I understand that, but I like to see guys, and Jinder's not black, but I like to see guys of color, especially in WWE, where they say, oh, they don't never put a championship on guys of color. This, that, and the third. I love to see guys of color win championships. And by the way, I don't think WWE's racist. I think they're biased towards how someone looks in terms of body type and how they talk, which is completely different. But anyway, this guy Jinder has he looks like $1 million. He's not a bad talker, and I understand the guy came from 3B. Let's just be honest. The guy came from 3B. I totally understand what you mean, but I'm all about give a guy a shot.
No, I absolutely agree. If anyone probably with all the BS that a lot of the mid-card guys go through, Jinder Mahal probably has gone through the most of it, and he definitely deserves the title.
They've put, like you said, they put every roadblock in this guy's way. And don't get me wrong. I was no fan of Jack Swagger as world champion. I was no fan of Kennedy winning the Money in the Bank when he did. I was definitely not a fucking fan of The Miz winning the WWE Championship. But I'm all about give a guy a shot and see what he does. If he doesn't set the world on fire, or doesn't do well as champion, or if he even fucks up and gets a DUI or some bullshit or
pulls an RVD.
Don't get me started on that, because that was very hypocritical of WWE. They did that because they didn't like RVD. But if he does something to fuck up, fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. You know what I'm saying? Just don't put the championship on him again. That means he can't handle the spotlight or handle the spot. Or if he doesn't perform well in it, that just means he's not a good performer. But you have to give the guy opportunity to see what he does.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I'm in complete agreement with you. I just think that the fans, and even the casual fans that follow WWE, maybe not on a weekly basis, but have been following the program for years, they're just going to look at this guy as why is this guy champion? Considering everything that he has gone through. And you mentioned it yourself. They built him up way too quickly in way too short amount of time for him to be credible. Had he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, I would not be saying what I'm saying right now, because it would be a slow build and everything would be good. In my personal opinion, I would have had Jinder not win Sunday, have him be in Money in the Bank, win the contract, cash it in at SummerSlam or Survivor Series, and then have him be the champion. That would give you enough time to build up his repertoire as a character, as a heel, prove to the fans that he is a credible threat to a championship and be able to go from there. The story practically writes itself at that point. But here you basically wrote the first chapter and then wrote the end at the end of the book. And that's just my only concern about this. Again, I think Jinder can do the job well. Dee mentioned great talker. I agree. For someone like that, I think he's a great talker.
Yeah.
He definitely gets the fans riled up. But again, this is a case of, we're not booing you for what you're saying. We're booing simply because we don't think you deserve this opportunity. And the fans' voices count in regards to that.
Yeah, and he's not even a terrible worker or a bad worker or anything like that. Like I'm not gonna say I've seen him put on a 5-star match or anything like that. But I haven't really. Only thing I've really seen him fuck up doing in the ring is when he knocked Finn Balor out and concussed him. That's the only thing I've really seen him do that was like, oh, that didn't look good. And I actually thought it might get him in trouble if he was going to get any push. But I mean, yeah, shit happens in the ring. But other than that, he's not. I mean, this guy tolerated being put through a fucking table by El Torito.
Yeah, hated this.
Come on, man.
That should disqualify you from any future.
That guy's business, and I understand. Like, even if he didn't win the championship, I'm pretty sure the guy, I don't know Jinder Mahal's real name, but if he were to lose that match and not get pushed again after this, I'm pretty sure like he's wrestling's a business. He looked at it as a business. Like, okay, I mean, thanks for the opportunity, but at least he got that main event shot.
Right. Exactly. And, a lot to be proud of here. I believe JBL said first WWE champion of Indian descent. Yeah. Which is a great accomplishment. I'm not saying
not counting Khali because that was the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
But still, not something that's going to automatically put you in the WWE Hall of Fame, but something that's definitely to be proud of.
And hold on. And come on, people. Think about it. Would you rather have Jinder or Khali? Give me a fucking break here. Come on.
I will point out that the only thing I was disappointed in, really, aside from me thinking, at least, on paper, that this doesn't make any sense, is that Punjabi celebration on SmackDown, total letdown. I almost thought, and a couple people I think mentioned this on Twitter, they honestly thought that the only reason Jinder Mahal won the championship is because someone at WWE liked this Sikh dance troupe based in Toledo and just wanted an excuse to put him on TV.
Yeah, they're based in Toledo?
Yeah, I would imagine that the show was in Toledo.
Oh, okay.
So, I just remember, Jinder, standing in the ring, JBL... Shut up. Just shut up for a while. But Jinder's in the ring and he's talking about, how 1.8 billion people are celebrating right now back in India. And I'm just like, all three of you guys are Canadian. It's just things like that. I was expecting more. I was expecting Randy Orton to make an appearance, even if it was just via satellite on the Jumbotron.
I thought the only reason they had that celebration was because it was to set up an RKO.
Yeah, exactly.
Was Randy Orton even on this show?
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
No. I like the pyro though. I
thought speaking of Randy Orton, he fucked up one of the Singh brothers. Since they've been calling them the Singh brothers instead of the Bollywood boys, Harvin Gerv, Sierra. I don't know which one is which Singh brother now, but he picked one of them up for was it a back suplex?
Yeah.
And he flipped this guy up so bad and dropped him on his neck, and Orton was like, "Oh, I think I fucked him up. I might have killed this motherfucker." But that was
he was fine on Tuesday, so
I'm pretty sure they heard about that one backstage. Like, are you okay? Like, I thought Randy was probably like, "Did I fuck you up?" Okay.
Medics.
It looked bad.
Look, a final word I'll say on this. Again, I'm not disappointed that Jinder Mahal is champion. I think it's great for him. I think long term this could actually be a good thing. Just right now, with the way he was built up and the fact that they didn't build him up until a month ago, and the fact that Jinder Mahal was even on SmackDown was a shock to me. It just goes against, just rational wrestling logic. And I just feel that it's going to come back and bite Jinder in the ass.
And this is the corporate championship he's holding.
Yeah, exactly. The one that's not the WWE World Champion. It's the WWE Championship. It's representing the company as a whole. The only thing, I mentioned this on the show, I think a couple weeks ago, the only way that I think this is going to work out long term is that Rusev's going to be coming back soon, and he did demand a title shot. And since those two still have unfinished business,
Rusev's going to be the face.
Rusev's going to come back as a face. Lana's going to come back as a face. Whether or not they're together or not on storyline remains to be seen. But Rusev's going to come back. He'll have to come back as a face. He's done all he can as a heel at this point and go off after Jinder. That's the only way that I see this playing out post Money in the Bank if he does come out with the title. But that remains to be seen if WWE is even going to have the balls to even do that based on fan reaction.
I got a question for you guys. All right. Say Rusev never got hurt. Do you think this spot right here would have gone to him instead?
Probably.
Because he's on SmackDown.
100%.
Probably, yeah, because he's actually held a title before. He's had I don't want to say a main event push, but he's definitely been in the forefront.
he did. That whole first year where he was undefeated, that was a main event fucking push, especially being in there with John Cena as many times as he was.
Yeah, it would definitely have been Rusev. So I think they just got the next foreign guy in line and realized that they could technically make something out of it. But again, they just pushed the guy too hard, too fast, and I'm worried that that's going to hurt Jinder in the long run.
I wouldn't say it was too fast. It was very sudden, but he's even though he was released in between, but I wouldn't say it was too fast. It was just sudden because of where he was on the card.
You see, I think it's too fast because when you're jobbing every week and your only wins on record are on Saturday morning fucking Slam, I think that's a problem. And that's the only thing that I'm concerned with is that the fans are not going to be booing him because of what he says as a heel or that he's an arrogant champion. The fans are going to boo him because they see that this guy might not be as deserving as they would like as a champion, and they're just going to sweep the Persian rug from under him.
Well, he defeated Heath Slater his first match back in like 2 seconds.
Oh.
That shows you have arrived.
And he did it in jeans.
Oh my God.
I will say I'm a fan of Jinder Mahal. I think he's a solid worker. I do like this differentiation of where kind of you look at Randy Orton, you look at Jinder Mahal. These are guys that look like main event big deals. You have guys that are strong workers fighting for the U.S. Championship. I kind of really like kind of going back to that old style. It really feels like the 80s and 90s, early 90s. But I don't hate Jinder Mahal as champion. I think this opens up the possibility of what we're saying. Well, Randy Orton could win it back next pay-per-view, but
he didn't win it clean anyway.
But he might not win it back. Maybe Rusev's going to take it from him. It's opening up all these possibilities. Where last week,
maybe we won't see Randy for.
We would have said, Randy Orton defeats Jinder Mahal. It's academic. Randy Orton's going to feud with this other guy, and he's going to have a reign. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen. It kind of opened up that anything can happen. Jinder Mahal, like Casey said, was doing nothing like 2 months ago, and now he's champion, which could be seen as a negative. It could be seen as a positive because anything can go right now.
The positive out of this, though, is at least WWE on the SmackDown side of things is trying to make a new star. I mean, on Raw, you got Finn Balor. That's probably the best new star that they have, but they're still salivating over Roman Reigns, and they hurt Finn Balor in the process, by giving Reigns a win over him clean on fucking free television. So, on SmackDown...
Way to WWE there, WWE.
Never let us down.
At least on SmackDown, as out of the blue as all of this shit is, and if you would have told me, when Jinder first returned and he'd be in a main event position, I'd have told you you're a fucking liar. But the fact that they're actually trying to do something different with someone who's not new, but someone who's never actually had a real opportunity. He was never really given a fair shake after his first few months on his initial arrival.
Yeah.
At first he was I think he was still doing the anti-American thing, but he wasn't really doing much, and at that point he wasn't getting over, so they replaced it with Great Khali, and then the tag team with Great Khali fizzled out, and then he was just losing. Then he went to NXT, and he was in NXT title tournament, lost to Seth Rollins, came back to the main roster, and guess what he's doing? He's in fucking 3MB, and what they do, fans liked him, but they didn't really do shit at all but get their asses kicked.
Yep.
And then that whole thing with and the Colognes deserved so much better at that point because they were fucking El Torito and fucking Los Matadores. And they had that stupid WLC match, which was very entertaining. But this is the kind of stuff, like, Jinder Mahal not being a quote-unquote credible contender is not his own fault.
No,
this is what WWE has done.
This is all WWE's doing.
And if all of this is a problem for WWE, and if they're getting any backlash or whatever, no pun intended,
right?
If they're getting any backlash from any of this shit, it's their own fault. You know why? Because none of this would have happened if you never took the championship off of fucking Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
There you go.
It all full circle. It all goes back.
How simple could this all have been? If
Mic drop, bitches.
Yeah, how simple could this have all been if you just won that match at WrestleMania? Again, I'm not saying that I don't think Jinder Mahal can't be a credible champion. I'm not saying that he can't be a long-term championship. You know, I thought JBL's championship reign was run and done. That lasted almost a fucking year.
Yeah.
But at least JBL had a background.
To me, JBL, and I'm probably going to get a little bit of heat from you guys from this, but I believe JBL winning the championship and holding it for as long as he did devalued the championship more than fucking Jinder Mahal winning it, in my opinion. That's how I feel.
Yeah, you're in your own bubble. In regards to that.
JBL is a credible fucking champion. For a year, nobody can beat this guy.
Not for a year, but I believe he should have had the championship.
With Jinder, Jinder didn't win it clean. It was a 3-on-1 thing, pretty much the whole thing, and I don't expect him to hold it. I don't expect him to hold this thing to SummerSlam. Let's be honest with you, but at least he got the opportunity.
Right.
But with JBL, this guy he beat Booker, he beat Big Show on multiple occasions. Really? The Undertaker on multiple occasions. Really? Are you fucking kidding me? He beat Eddie Guerrero and all the... Okay, maybe Eddie Guerrero and whatever they were doing at that storyline at the time, okay. But come on, man. A year? Almost a fucking year? Get out of here. And opposed to a guy winning a championship one night basically in a 3-on-1 assault? Come on, man.
I'm just looking at it from, background storyline, aspect, which is how a lot of casual WWE fans look at everything. At least JBL, he had, tag team championships to his credit. He had hardcore championships to his credit. I think he had the IC title at least once prior to that. Jinder Mahal, he just from WWE storyline perspective, he hadn't done anything. He was European champion
before he won that championship. Okay,
still that's a mid card champion. I always just live under the mentality that in order for you to have a chance for the WWE World Champion, you need to build up a repertoire of mid card titles and show that you're even ready to hold a championship of that kind of caliber. Jinder Mahal, he held a fucking invisible guitar. That's the only thing that worries me, and I'm just worried that having the pressure of having the company's championship around your waist is going to hurt him long term. Then it's going to help him throughout how long this championship is. I mean, is this guy going to be a one and done? That's my only concern.
Who knows? He could catch fire all of a sudden as a heel. Who knows?
I hope he does. I hope he does, because I think SmackDown can benefit from having a heel champion again. But that's just my biggest concern, is that the fans are going to reject him just because they don't feel that he's deserving of the title. That's my only concern in regards to this. Everything else, I am in complete agreement with you, but I just think that the fans, whose vote counts a lot more than anyone else's, despite what Vince McMahon would want to believe, does matter in this. And I think they're going to boo him, not just because he's the heel, and because he has the Singh brothers fighting his battles, and he's an arrogant champion, but because they feel that because of his past storylines, characters, gimmicks, and credibility as a performer, from when Raw comes on to SmackDown goes off, whatever, that's going to hurt him in the long run. That's my only concern.
Yeah, for me, going back to JBL title reign, I never thought he was a credible champion. I don't think he deserved that long of a reign. For me, WWE is based on what have you done for me lately. If you ever ask anyone what did JBL do before that championship, if you ask a casual fan, I would doubt that they would say, "Oh, he's held the tag champs."
There are people who think JBL and Bradshaw are two different superstars.
Yeah. So I was completely against, and I thought it was a joke to turn JBL from Bradshaw to John Bradshaw Layfield in that short of amount of time. So for this one,
he was still technically Bradshaw when he released that financial book.
Yeah.
Yep. He still has wet black hair and a stupid fucking cowboy hat.
And for me, I don't think it's a big deal. They did it with JBL. I'm honestly putting the Jinder Mahal title reign on par with that, as in, I'm not. If you like JBL's title reign, there's potential you could like Jinder Mahal's. I don't think he's off to like a negative start or anything. I'm interested to see where it goes. It opens up so many different possibilities. I love that SmackDown is giving these guys shots, like Bray Wyatt to be champion, like Jinder Mahal now, to see where it goes. There really is no glass ceiling for these guys. Sami Zayn's getting wins, things like that. But we did go a little long, so I think we'll dive into Raw next week. Just because it was so SmackDown heavy this week, and plus Jinder Mahal.
Not a damn thing really worth mentioning happened on Raw, and I can tell you right now. Let's see. There was a fucking tag match at the end with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins.
I want to talk about Goldust, but
and then
Paul Heyman promo. That's about it.
And then Finn Balor had basically a throwaway match where he won. Other than that, nothing really happened. Period.
Yeah.
And then Alexa Bliss hit Mickie James with a kendo stick after she beat her. Same thing happened last week.
Same
with
shit
Bayley.
every week.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess we'll talk about that same shit next week. But until then, I'm Luke Janess. Oh, wait a second. I think these got to get into it.
Okay. I was going to do it when you came to me.
Okay.
But since you did, of course, check us out on popcultureaddicts.com. We can check out the Week in Wrestling podcast, when you can look at all our past episodes as well. And of course, our future videos that we will be shooting in the near future.
Yeah,
this beautiful camera I'm looking at in front of me. And then, of course, you can see the Week in Wrestling podcast, or listen to it anyway on YouTube, my YouTube, the D Harris brand. We can check out the Week in Wrestling podcast, as well as my show On Screen with D Harris, and check out the promotional videos I've also done for my car club, Team Prodigy 216, my automotive team, which you can also find that on Facebook, as well as the aforementioned D Harris brand.
All right, and I'll go ahead and promote something as well. I am working on a new video game related series called Small City Gamer. I am going to be bringing that to Pop Culture Addicts as well, and hopefully a video game related podcast as well. That's all a work in progress, so no timetable on when to see that, but that is something that I am currently working on, and within the summer months, that will start showing up here as well.
And check us out. They already said Pop Culture Addicts. We'll be transitioning into some videos, hopefully in the coming weeks here. We got a set built and everything, so we should be good to go. Probably some old pay-per-view breakdowns, probably some match breakdowns, just some talking points, things like that. So expect a lot more content video-wise from us. Plus, we always do the weekly podcast. Make sure you check it out. Until then, I'm Luke Janesco.
He's George.
And D Harris.
And that was your week in wrestling.